Yes, my name is John Patterson. I'm a chief geologist with North American Nickel. One of the key things I look for when I look at a project is is there a major igneous event associated with it? And I think in this case we have it. And then is there proof that nickel mineralization is associated with that event? Basically, what we're looking at here is just the regional picture. Our project area is outlined in black here. It's an exploration license of about 4,800 square kilometers, so it's big. And basically, the geology here, the rocks are old. They're about 3.4 to 2.9 billion years old. So we're talking Archean age rocks. The area we're interested in specifically is called, is referred to in the literature as the Greenland Norite Belt. And the norites here I've shown in purple. And they form a belt that wraps around sort of in a J shape around a thing called the Fenefeld Gneiss Complex. And that gneiss complex has recently been interpreted as an impact structure. And some people are saying, well, maybe these norites are associated with it, and this could be the first nickeliferous norites associated with an impact outside of Sudbury. Well, that's great, but I don't really care how the norites got there. The fact is that they contain nickel, and it seems to be we find nickel in these norites throughout the entire belt. So obviously, some big processes going on here. And the other thing is these norites appear to have been in place over some period of time. So we have a relatively long-lived igneous event. And that's important, as John pointed out when he showed you that model, to have a long-lived igneous event that upgrades the grade of your sulfide. Okay, this is just a slide of showing those the locations of the showings and some of the better grades that came out of them. And Quagsuck is one of the ones that's shown there, and you guys all have this on your lap, so you can probably see the labels better than even I can. But there are some significant intersections on the property, including 9.85 meters of 2.67% nickel, and that other one that felt fossilic there. Some good grades, and the first thing you say is, well, geez, it's been drilled. What's left? Well, these holes, all these showings, by the way, were discovered in the 1960s and early 70s by surface prospecting. Wow, it went through quick. And the way it worked back then was when they found a showing on surface, they would drill it with what we call Winky drill. And Winky drill is a man-portable drill. Generally has a depth penetration of about 50 to 60 meters. So these are shore holes predominantly. I think there's about 119 holes drilled in this whole belt. And not all of them were drilled for nickel, but a lot of them were. And on average, they were less than 55 meters long. So very short holes on average. There was about 6 deeper holes drilled in the whole property. So relatively below surface, scratched hardly at all. Okay, so after 1972, the project area sat dormant for quite a while. And it wasn't until the discovery of Boise's Bay in 1993 that people got interested in this area again. I was not directly involved with this project when I was at Falconbridge, by the way. I know some of the people who were, and they're very good people. They did excellent work. So Falconbridge was actually first in there in 93. They started to do some sampling, but we were a cautious bunch, and we wanted to do our sampling first and get our assays back and all that. In the meantime, Caminco came in and grabbed the licenses over pretty much the entire belt. And what Caminco did is exactly what any major company would do. They really hit it in a big way. They took the best airborne technology available of the day, and it's called geotherm, and they flew the whole belt, over 20,000 line kilometers. And the problem was that it didn't work. They didn't see hardly any conductors in the norite belt itself. And you may say, well, why is that? Because I just passed around a sample, and that aircraft flew right over where that sample was collected from. It didn't see it. And you say, well, how's that possible? Well, it's possible because the airborne system they were using, it's mounted on a big STOL aircraft, two twin-engine turboprop aircraft. And while it works really well in flat level terrain, when you get into mountainous terrain, which you're in here in Maniitsoq, the aircraft, for safety reasons, has to fly higher. And that greatly reduces the depth penetration. And we did our due diligence on this. We got all the digital data from the geotherm survey. And I'm not bad-mouthing geotherm. I think it's a great system. But this was in 1995, mind you. So the technology back then was not what it was today. And there was no such thing as helicopter-borne geophysics of time domain quality that we're using here. So really, this was the only system they could use. And They didn't give up, though. I mean, they went out in the ground and they did a lot of prospecting, but they couldn't find an EM target. And in nickel exploration, if you don't have an EM target, you don't have a drill target. You can't drill, so essentially, they walked away without actually doing any drilling at all. After going through all that data, all that old data from the Caminco survey, I had a geophysicist go through the whole thing who's very experienced. And I asked him, I said, is there anything available today that would do a better job than this, what we got here? And he said, oh, yes. He says, helicopter time domain EM would be a much, you'll be able to hug the ground, signal to noise ratio, much better. You'd be able to detail areas quickly. And in fact, you could probably take it right to the drill stage very quickly. So we decided, okay, we'll give this project a shot. So I'm just going to quickly, I was out in the ground. Our first thing, of course, when we acquired the property was to make sure that the showings were where they're supposed to be and that those drill holes were where they're supposed to be so that when we do our airborne survey, we know where the mineralization really is on the ground. So I've just got a picture here of one of our field geologists, Rasmus, out on one of these norite host rock. And you can see how it stands out against the horizon there. These things are very easy to find from the air. You can see in the 1960s and 70s, everything that's been found so far is found just by spotting from either an aircraft or on the ground. And so the mineralizations we've found so far has all been right on surface. The key thing I want you to take away about the norite host rocks is that as opposed to all the other rocks around here, these rocks are undeformed, or relatively undeformed. And the significance of that is that any ore body associated with these norites is also going to be undeformed, which means it's going to be probably like a blob or like a tube, not spread out, smeared out. And from a geophysics point of view, it's much harder to detect irregularly shaped bodies than it is to detect flat plates. Okay? So that's one of the reasons why the Caminco survey would have had trouble. I mean, you might think, oh yeah, that's really conductive. But yeah, if it's all blobby, it's going to be a little harder to detect. The mineralization itself, it also stands out very well. This is a shot, the Pingo is one of the showings there. And you can see it also stands out in the field, in the weathered surface, very clearly, very easy to find. And then what I've also shown you is some unweathered mineralization from various showings. All the drill core, by the way, from the old drilling in the 60s, that's all still available. And in fact, both Falconbridge and Caminco did a lot of work resampling that core, checking on the assays, validating the 1960s assays in chemistry. So that we have a wealth of data that we can go back to on this project that was collected by these two senior companies.